Hi guys, today we are going to test out 2 more Cleantle products. Well, actually 3. We're going to test out 3 more Cleantle products. First is De-Iron Man. De-Iron Man? I don't know. De-Iron is one word, man is one word. So this is a iron breaker wheel cleaner, safe pH neutral, designed to remove deeply embedded metallic impurities from the surface of all kinds of rims and clear coats. So also body. Spray on contaminated surface. Do not use in hot elements. Leave on the surface, wait for the product to react, 60 to 120 seconds. Do not allow to dry. Work the agent on the surface with a brush or sponge. Rinse thoroughly with a pressure washer. And then it says again, do not apply on hot surfaces. Do not allow to dry. And then this one is tire and wheel cleaner. Product dedicated for the effective cleaning of tires, rubber elements, rubber mats, aluminum and steel rims. The advanced formula effectively penetrates and removes even the most stubborn dirt, easily biodegradable. Maximum surface/user safety. Ready to use? For smudges, you can use 1:1 to 1:3. Apply to a wet tire or dry rim, wait about 30 seconds, spread evenly with a brush, rinse thoroughly with water. Do not apply on hot surfaces, do not allow to dry. So we're gonna try both of these. We're gonna see how they work, and then we're also going to try the tire dressing. And tire dressing says clean tires thoroughly, spread, leave to dry, can also be applied wet. Modern product for the care and protection of tires, rubber, and exterior plastic elements. Does not contain harmful VOCs. So we'll rinse this first. And then let's start off with De-Iron Man. So this is my 7th Cleantle product that I've tried. I will say that I generally like sprayers for wheel cleaners that are adjustable so that I could adjust the fan and make sure that the fan fits the openings in the wheels. I think that this one is actually doing pretty well. It's probably pretty close to what I would set it to as a default. So we've sprayed that on. We're going to let it dwell, and it says 60 to 120 seconds. All right, so we're at 1 minute. I've got this DIY detail brush. We'll use that today, and we're just gonna clean out the barrel. I will say that this has, I would call it a reasonable amount of cling. So it's not like, there are some products that are kind of like a gel, like Sidero is a gel. This is not that thick, but it's definitely thicker than a lot of the other iron breakers that you might use. So it is staying on the wheel pretty well in the spots that I've sprayed it. And the spray pattern and the thickness, I find that those kind of have a direct correlation on how much product you use. So I think that this is actually pretty good in my book as far as that's concerned. And then obviously, like I mentioned, you can dilute this as well. You can see that we've got a lot of that purple coloration. You can see the brush is all black and purple. We are getting that color changing effect. Even without doing anything, just it automatically kind of color changed without, me putting a bunch of effort into it. There were already purple runs. So let's rinse this off. All right, so that actually came out really good. I was going to try the tire and wheel cleaner on top of it, but it looks really good. So let's just hit the tire with this. Again, good sprayer. You could see that like I didn't get it all over the wheel, which is kind of nice. So if you're just trying to hit the tire, you can do that. Again, this can be diluted 1:1, 1:3. Wait for about 30 seconds. And it does say to put it on a wet tire. So we're at 30 seconds. Hit this with our brush. We can see a reasonable amount of browning. These tires weren't that dirty to begin with, but still looks pretty good. All right, now we're gonna do the other wheel up in the front using the tire and wheel cleaner by itself. All right, so here we have tire and wheel cleaner. And it says wet tire, dry rim, which is kind of a weird combination. So you kind of have to do it, I would say, as two separate things. Rinse this off and do the tire second. This is really doing a good job of, like, you could see a lot of stuff getting drawn down without me doing any agitation. Missed a spot there. Get up in those crevices. Lots of black, like really dark black coming off of the wheel. So we'll let this sit for a minute again. Some light so you can get a clear look. Lots of black coming off. Lots of running. Say this one's a little thinner than the de-iron man. All right. So I think we've got some reasonable agitation there. All right, let's hit the tire on this one. I didn't talk about scents, so generally wheel cleaners smell like crap. This one actually smells really good. It's called lemongrass. The other one had a decent scent too, even though it's an iron breaker wheel cleaner. It didn't really have a strong smell or anything like that that I was upset by. Again, we can see we're starting to get some browning here on the wheels. Maybe hit some of these harder places a second time, like these inside of the spokes. These wheels are really hammered. I don't know that they were ever washed for 10 years until I got this car. So, you know, whatever it's doing is going to be an improvement. At some point, I will get a set of wheels and tires for this. And then what I will likely do is I'll pull these off, clean them up, ceramic coat them, and put them in my shed. Last, we have tire dressing, which says you can apply it to wet or dry tires. Wet tires are going to have lower durability. Second layer for greater shine. Apply it onto a sponge applicator or brush. So I've got just a regular like microfiber applicator here. This is pretty thick. Honestly, pretty similar consistency to like the OG tire dressing, which I use quite a bit. This one has a good smell as well. Let what is this one called? Soapy scent. So I think we had one of the interior cleaners that had that same soapy scent. Starting off, we use the Iron Man. We use it straight or neat or undiluted, however you want to describe that. Interestingly, for an iron breaker wheel cleaner, it doesn't have a bad scent. Like there's nothing written on it as like a custom, this is what we tried to make it smell like. If you smell it out of the bottle, it does smell strong. When you're using it, I didn't really notice it at all. There are a lot where you do notice it, like Sidero is a good example of one that smells awful, where this one really wasn't that big of a deal. I would say the best smelling iron remover that I have right now is probably Armor, but I think that this is actually pretty close behind that. It is safe, it's pH neutral. They do say multiple times not to use it in the sun, so I do imagine that it would potentially hurt your finish. I found that it had a good lubricity. I found that it had a good amount of cling. There are things that are better, and there are things that are more lubricious, if that's even a word, but it, you know, was on the higher end of that, like no complaints. So, you know, good lubrication on the brush. It didn't feel like I was, you know, cleaning a dry wheel or something along those lines. It was really effective. Started breaking down the stuff almost immediately after a minute, which it says, you know, can be 1 to 30 minutes. After a minute, it was already like purple was draining off of the wheel, and it did a great job. Now, I do find that it needed agitation to do its thing. The sections like behind the triple spokes where maybe the brush didn't exactly get, like you could tell where those were, and there's little pockets of stuff left behind. But it did a great job. Again, the sprayer, I would ideally like an adjustable sprayer on a wheel cleaner, but I do like these sprayers. I don't dislike them. And what I mean by that is this just has on off. It doesn't have like the twistable top where you can dial in the spray pattern. My preference would be one of these that has the adjustable pattern like that, or like a Tolko. Again, like these are a really good sprayer, and there are a lot of companies that don't have really good sprayers, so I don't want to knock them for it, it just could be better. Next, we went on to the tire and wheel cleaner. So we found on a tire, it had good browning, reasonable amount of clean. It wasn't like you're taking the rubber out of the tire, it was so brown, but it was definitely clean when it was done, nice and black when it was done and when it dried. On the wheel, it did a great job. It's not quite as sticky as the de-Iron Man, so it did have a little bit more run, but I saw almost immediate brake dust dropping off of the wheel, almost immediate dirt hitting the ground, and the puddle below the tire, and the puddle below the wheel was very dark black. It rinsed off easily, no issues with that. Again, it did kind of require some agitation, although without agitation, it actually still did a pretty good job. You know, in like the spokes and some of those other areas where I really couldn't get with the brush. So, you know, I think really like, is this the most effective wheel cleaner or the most effective iron cleaner that I've ever used? Probably not. Like it's reasonably high up there. And there are a bunch of, you know, safety precautions that have been made to make this safer for you to use it. So I think, you know, this comes down to one of those things. Maybe you're okay working just a little bit harder than something like an Armor detail supply wheel cleaner that might be a little bit stronger, but maybe not quite as safe. And I don't mean to call them out. I honestly don't know the safety factor of theirs, but my perception is that Cleantle is working towards safety, and that's their entire MO. Tire dressing, I found did an excellent job. Comes out kind of thick. It's very similar in consistency to the Obsessed Garage tire dressing, which I do really, really like a lot. And that is kind of my go-to. I think that it would probably be best on a curveball brush. This is a curveball brush, so something like this I think would actually do an excellent job applying it. I normally use this with the OG tire dressing. I didn't use this today because I don't reuse tire applicators when I'm testing tire dressings. So I want to make sure that there isn't like some, you know, I spray this on an applicator that I used for Armor tire, and then all of a sudden, like, I don't know if it's the Cleantle or if it's the Armor or whatever. So I use a brand new applicator every single time I test a tire dressing, which is why I use the microfiber ones, because they're cheap. But I think if I was using it permanently, or if I was just using it for myself, I would use this guy to apply it, because the consistency is thick enough that it's not going to like come into the brush or come into your applicator and like get your hand all greasy like a lot of thinner tire dressings will. And I think that the brush lets you get into like the letters and the texture of the tire and some of that kind of stuff just a little bit better, so I prefer that. The tire dressing says that you can apply it to a wet or dry tire. I would describe it as a satin finish. It's not really matte, it's not semi-gloss. And even when we applied it to a wet tire, we still ended up with a similar end product. But Cleantle themselves say, if you're doing it on a wet tire, you're probably going to end up with less durability. So anyway, that's all that I have for today. I don't know that they'll be my go-to long-term, just being honest, but I think that if the safety factor is indeed higher than a lot of their competitors, it's definitely an interesting brand to try out. And I think that I could definitely be effective using them all day, every day as my only wheel cleaner, my only tire cleaner, my only tire dressing. The wheel cleaner says that it can be diluted. I would say if you're going to be using this permanently, you probably would want to dilute it, because using it full strength, you're going to go through quite a bit of product. I generally like to foam tire cleaners onto my car, so I'll test the foaming action of it at some point. Normally I use like Armor wheel, and I run it straight through an MTM foam cannon, which dilutes it like 1 to 15. So that's actually this guy right here behind me, this blue one. I find that that works really well, and I find that the bubbles and suds give me great working time and allow me to have really good lubrication on the brush. Thank you for stopping by today. I hope that you're having a great day.